Right. A little bit more of a controversial question from
Oh,
our friend Fake Natty, who I
oh,
heard isn't actually drug free.
man,
Weird.
there's some funny ass names. Fabulous Toaster.
Fabulous. All
Okay,
right.
Big Natty, got it.
What are your thoughts on front squats for hypertrophy? I don't see
Hmm.
them performed or even mentioned much by the RP crew. Is it purely a preference thing, or do you actually consider them inferior for this purpose to other squatting variations? As a side note, Dr. Feigenbaum, in one of his recent articles, argued that whether one does high bar, low bar, or front squat is almost irrelevant outside of sport specific context. I suspect he draws a bit too bold of conclusions from the studies he cites here, but my lack of knowledge enables me to challenge them in a meaningful way. Link to the article below.
So,
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 yeah,
I mean, so that last note, I mean, that is just completely answered by SFR at that point, right? You can just use that to answer. Should I do these exercise variations for whatever goal? SFR, boom, done. Like
yeah.
pretty
So let's
easy.
expand on that. We'll answer that second question first, and then the first question second. So, Dr. Feigenbaum argued that whether one does high bar, low bar, front squats is almost irrelevant outside of sport specific context. Well, so the
So
thing is,
that,
hypertrophy is a sport specific context. This also upsets me, but I'm going to try to be a little bit more polite than James is losing his mind over there. James, I feel you 100%
I
because I
actually
was a
think
big one back in the
sport
day.
specific is less relevant in those because you could just say like,
That's true.
as long as you're doing like a triple extension or a hip extension, knee extension, like you could
Yeah,
that. I think it's
sure.
less relevant in that
Sure.
case.
Sure. So I think maybe to Steelman Jordan's position there, Dr. Feigenbaum's, I think he's saying like if you do weightlifting, you do high bar and front squat, and if you do powerlifting, you should do low bar, which is absolutely correct. That is definitely true. The thing is, in the sport of bodybuilding, well, we care about the hypertrophy SFR a whole lot. And what you have to do is find which one of those has the highest SFR, which one has the SFR that is so low that is not even a candidate for your selection of exercises. And there can be a lot of right and wrong answers. Specifically, a huge, vast number of people that try to low bar for reps find that it fatigues the fuck out of their posterior chain, especially their back. It bothers the shit out of their shoulders or elbows or wrists or hips. You just kind of pick one. And the stimulus to the quads is good. But remember, stimulus to fatigue ratio, the fatigue is fucking massive. And the stimulus is like, man, it's fine. So a lot of times, people who have low bar squatted for a long time for hypertrophy, when they switch to high bar, they're like, oh my fucking God, nothing hurts anymore. And my quads are getting at least as good of a workout. So that's a huge win. That's why squatting low bar for most people for hypertrophy pursuits is just not a good idea because of SFR, like James said. Secondly, front squats. Actually, we can answer both these questions at the same time. The problem with front squats is twofold in bodybuilding. One is they tend to be a relatively unstable movement in the sense that you can't produce very high repetitive forces because the bar moves around a lot and it actually starts to slip off your shoulders. So, problem one, it's not the best way to apply a high degree of tension. Weightlifters do back squats to strengthen their legs. They do front squats in order to get better at the front squatting position, which is a part of the sport. So even weightlifters don't use front squats to get legs stronger or bigger. They use high bar squats for that. Otherwise, what the fuck are they on a high bar squat for? So, second problem, this is not one that involves um, weightlifting, because in weightlifting, the guys don't ever squat for, front squats, they don't ever really do for any more than 5 reps, which is exactly what you would never need to. In bodybuilding, hypertrophy work, you will do sets of at least 5 to 10, often 10 to 15 in the squat. The front squat will choke you to death if you try to do that. It does it actually in two ways. One, if you have a really good rack position and you're staying upright, it physically chokes you by fucking pushing into your goddamn airway. Second, if you don't have a good rack position and you let your shoulders go down, it starts to crush your rib cage and you can't take in as much air as you want because you're fucking going like this the whole time. It's dog shit. And a lot of people who have really pushed themselves in training in the quad movements find that they could just do so much more with the high bar squat and deliver so much more stimulus to the quads with so few other limiting factors than front squats, which is why for most people, not all, front squats are just not that great of a choice, which takes us back to the idea that of those three, high bar squats for almost everyone in hypertrophy are just dominant.
Yeah, very good answer. So I think there are some people that are just built in such a way that front squats is great for them, and that's fine. What I have found, and this is just my own anecdote, so take it or leave it, but I think that front squats tend to be great for beginners and intermediates to some point. But usually, once you get strong enough to the point where you start running into these problems, right? That then it just becomes less and less. Excuse me, the SFR goes down over time. So kind of the TLDR version is like, it works great until you get strong. And then once you're strong, you're like, fuck this. I can't like, I just can't train this way anymore. Same problem with like deadlifts and stuff. So I used to do a lot of front squats myself until I would find that like doing sets of like 275 for 8 or, 300 ish would just be soul crushing. Right. And I would leave me I remember a couple times at Temple, I did a front squat workout for my peak week. And I remember I got through my heavy sets and I was just instantly overreached, and I was trying to tough guy my way out of it. And I was just like, nope, I'm going to do my down sets. I had 4 more down sets to do. And it was just one of those like comical moments where I went for the down sets and I was like, I'm literally overreached everywhere. There's nothing I can't even do like a lateral raise at this point. I'm done like for the week. I had to auto-regulate a deload. Like, so front squat's just one of those that like, to a point it's useful. And then I kind of think around that intermediate stage, the SFR just really starts to tank.
Absolutely.